Today, we are continuing our series where we pick one player from every single NFL team that is currently being undervalued or underrated in fantasy football drafts this season. Now, this is the halfway point. We covered the AFC South earlier this week on Monday, so go check out that video. It will be linked at the end. We covered the AFC and NFC North last week, and today we're covering the NFC South. Though we're talking about the Falcons, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Panthers. So buckle in. Next week, we're going to continue this series. Next Monday and Wednesday, we're going to cover the AFC and the NFC East. So if you're fans of those teams like I am with the New York Jets fan, buckle in for those videos. But let's lock in. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and check out for some other fantasy football videos coming every single day. We're uploading non-stop, so make sure you're checking them out. Go back on the thread. We got a playlist on the channel, Fantasy Football. Go check all of them out. But we're going to start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the reigning Super Bowl champions, and we're going with Antonio Brown, currently being drafted as wide receiver 43 and pick 112. Now, mock him if you want. He acted a fool on social media prior to really last year when the Buccaneers and Tom Brady reeled him on in, but Antonio Brown was good last year. Now, despite joining midway through the season, he did start and join in week 9 of the Tampa Bay Bucs season last year. And from week 9 to week 17, he made an immediate impact, especially in fantasy football. He was wide receiver 22 in PPR scoring, and he averaged 14.6 fantasy points per game. And if you had taken that all the way over the full season, you would have been wide receiver 16 in PPR scoring, a little bit lower in non-PPR or standard leagues. But it was a beast. Now, granted, you got to take into fact week 17 did inflate his stats. He had 36, 40 fantasy points. Now, that was insane. But if he gets a full offseason with this Tampa Bay team, full offseason with Tom Brady, this is the guy that is a few years removed from being the best NFL fantasy receiver and the best receiver in football in general. Now, I feel like he'll continue to get better and better, and this part is just being on the Bucs team, and this team is absolutely loaded, and this guy, Antonio Brown, never going to see the #1 corner like he saw last year, which prior to last year, he was always getting the #1 guy, even getting double teamed half the time on the majority of his routes when he was out there. But they got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They're going to take a lot of attention away from him, and so this means Antonio Brown's likely going to be on the second or third cornerback on the opposing defense. I would bet you Tom Brady will be exploiting that matchup. As it currently stands, I would give him some flex appeal. A wide receiver 3 might be a little high right now, but this guy, if you want to load up on running backs, I think this guy has a much better chance of being a wide receiver 43 in terms of being ranked. Absolutely not. He's going to finish as a top 30, 35 receiver at worst. I think he's going to be really underrated. And if, God forbid, anything does happen to Mike Evans, who has struggled with hamstring injuries in the past in his career, Chris Godwin's been pretty reliable, but he did struggle with a hamstring injury a couple of years prior. I don't know. You never know. Antonio Brown could pick up an even bigger target share, and that's exactly what you're looking for, especially in this range. You're taking a dart throw, which this guy could be a reliable starter each and every week. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints, we're going to talk about Taysom Hill and JAMEIS Winston. More so Taysom Hill, but at the moment, you got Taysom Hill going QB 28 and JAMEIS going QB 32, both undrafted in majority of leagues. At this moment, they're pretty good value at their current spot, except you really don't know who's going to be starting. So that's why they still have a little bit of value, but could JAMEIS Winston start week 1 or could Taysom Hill start week 1? That's a question in itself. But let's talk about JAMEIS. JAMEIS was QB 3 in fantasy points in 2019. Sure, that was his famous 30-30 where he threw 30 interceptions. Now, he's gotten LASIK since then. Maybe that means he won't throw as many interceptions. I don't know about that, but he was a very good fantasy football QB. Maybe not a great real-life QB. But either way, JAMEIS Winston was a good fantasy football starter, and I think he would be a better fantasy friend to this offense than Taysom Hill. But Taysom Hill, he was still very solid in his starts. He started 4 games, top 13 quarterback in all 4 weeks, and the only people to score more points than him during those stretch was 6 other quarterbacks. So you can't be mad at that. His legs alone will give him a lot of value in fantasy football. Now, I don't think it's crazy to say that the players around him, like Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, who's a question mark in himself, we'll cover him in the podcast in a couple weeks, they'll benefit more, I think, with JAMEIS Winston starting, just because I think it will be more of a pass-heavy scheme than with Taysom Hill running the ball. I feel like if you go Taysom Hill route, which is what I do expect Taysom Hill to be the week 1 starter. They could be trying to win games very similar to the Baltimore Ravens. Not that I'm comparing Taysom Hill to Lamar Jackson, but very similar scheme. A lot more run-heavy. Try to win with your defense and running. Now, Lamar Jackson, I don't know if you want to say he's a better passer than Taysom Hill. You're probably not wrong about that, but definitely something to be intrigued about. But Taysom Hill, he's got a very good flex. He's got a lot of appeal at this spot, and especially if you can draft him this late and he does get named the starter. Yeah, I guarantee you he will move up from QB 28 to probably in the lower 19, 20 to 22 range. Absolutely, he'll be up there, and he would still be a value at that position. This guy that's going to finish as a top 14 QB if he plays all the way through the season. Now, moving on To the Carolina Panthers, we're going to talk about Robbie Anderson. He's currently being drafted as wide receiver 31, pick 85. So unexpected. No one expected him to be this as good as he was last year, and he came out and just absolutely went crazy. Now, it was different the way that the Carolina Panthers used him as opposed to the way the New York Jets used him, which, no surprise there. The New York Jets don't use their players too well. That's not a surprise. But last year, he was wide receiver 19 in PPR. He had 5+ targets in every single game, and now he's been reunited with his old quarterback in New York. Whether that's a good or bad thing, Sam Darnold is in Carolina. Now, there's no more Curtis Samuel, so that does help for target's sake. Now, Terrace Marshall Jr., who we talked about in yesterday's video, go check that one out if you haven't already. He's still going to be there, but I don't know if he'll soak up every single target and touch that Curtis Samuel did. Now, CMC is back, so there goes some, targets. CMC will get a lot out of the backfield, but I think that will make the offense overall a lot better, and that might lead to more touchdowns for Robbie Anderson, which was the main point that he struggled last year. He only had 3 touchdowns in the whole entire season. Wasn't really targeted a lot. They didn't target him deep like the New York Jets were doing nonstop. Now, he did have 95 receptions last year and a 26% target share. I don't expect that to change all too much. I think he should be due for another 85-ish receptions, 1,000+ yards, and I do expect him to get some more touchdowns, 5 to 6 touchdowns this year. That's not outside of the realm of possibility. And he's a guy that I'm comfortable drafting as my wide receiver 3. I'm happy with that. Now, you're looking at guys that go on around him. Kenny Golladay, Cortland Sutton, Chase Claypool actually just went down with an injury today. Hopefully he is all right. All of those guys have question marks, and they're not necessarily the number 1 or 2 receiver on their team. Cortland Sutton is up, 1 or 2, but who knows? Kenny Golladay, I don't trust him at all. He will be on my players to avoid list, which will probably be coming out within the next couple days or weeks. Now, you know what? I like Robbie Anderson. I think he's a very good sleeper. And like I said, he's getting drafted as wide receiver 31. Count me in. Moving on to the Falcons. I believe this is how you pronounce it. Now, we'll take a step back. Now, the Falcons, an interesting team. You got Calvin Ridley. He's going to be great this year, but he's like, what, wide receiver 7, 8? I'm not going to tell you that he's being underrated or undervalued. This guy's a top 7 or 8 wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, he's going in the 4th or 5th round, pick 55. That's really high, and I'm not going to necessarily come up here and say, he should be tight end 1 this year. No, and I'm not going to sit here and plead for you to draft Matt Ryan or Mike Davis. Absolutely not. So we're going to go to the legend, YOUNGHOE. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Now, he took the league by storm last year. I know you're like, what the hell is this? You're telling me and kickers being underrated? Yeah, YOUNGHOE, very good last year, currently being drafted as kicker 2, and he deserved to be kicker 1 last year. He finished just 4 points shy of being kicker 1 on the year. He averaged 11.2 fantasy points per game, the most in the National Football League, and he missed a game earlier in the season. And most importantly, he made headlines this offseason when his Jeep got stolen and apparently his cleats were in there, and he said, no, I just want my cleats back. I don't know. YOUNGHOE, I'm in on him. Plus the Falcons team will just be, I don't think they'll be very good in the red zone. They don't have Julio Jones. They don't really have a great running game. Either way, I think they'll be kicking a lot of field goals like they did last year, even though their record was pretty poor. Now, that is going to all but do it for the NFC South. We talked about Antonio Brown. We talked about JAMEIS Winston and Taysom Hill. And we talked about Robbie Anderson and YOUNGHOE, the legend himself. Now, tomorrow, we got an interesting video coming your way. We're going to be talking about safe players to target in fantasy football. So these are the guys that don't necessarily have the highest ceiling, but have the best floor for you if you're targeting them in the earlier or later rounds. I really do like these guys. So stay tuned. That video will be coming out tomorrow, 10 a.m. every single day. Like I said, every single day it's coming out at 10 a.m. You'll see a video tomorrow, Wednesday. Well, so this is the video for Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every single day up until the regular season starts. We got some NFL player props coming soon, and more NFL future bets coming in a couple weeks. Podcasts returning. There's a lot of fun content coming your way. So make sure you click that subscribe button. Don't miss it. Click that bell too. Why not? It's calling our shot. We're going to the moon. We appreciate you guys. It's been Austin. I'll catch you guys again tomorrow. Peace out.